Starting momentarily. It's 7:01 according to my phone. Thank you.
Yeah, with no expectations. It's all unilateral.
No, just wondering how tonight's going.
Christine's ready. Thank you. I'm Bob Harbour. I'm your school moderator, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. Can you all please rise and join with me in a pledge to Old Glory? Flag is in the back of the room. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you'll face the front and please remain standing, for that we have a taped national anthem that'll be presented by Dean Zanello. Dean? Thank you. You may be seated. First thing I'd like to do, as we always do, is review the meeting rules. There's one rule that I'm going to mention that is not in here because of COVID. All of you were given a voter card. All of you should have signed your voter card. When we call for a vote on the first call, I'd like you not to shout or yell for the fear of spreading germs, so we're going to ask you to raise your card. I will ask you if you're for or against. If you raise your cards and it's quite apparent that one side won the call, we're not going to count your cards. That'll count as a, quote, voice call. If it's close, I will ask my assistant moderators to count your cards, and I'll ask you to keep them up until I tell you to place them down, all for your safety. So how about a practice? All in favor of that, raise your cards. Thank you. You may put them down. Any opposed? One. Good. So we can count. Very good. So I did count the one. So that will the way we're going to take votes. Meeting rules 1. Masks are required. Thank you all for wearing them. Those chairs you see are at social distance. So rule 2 is please keep the chairs where they are. You can sit in the bleachers if you like with someone from your household. Some of you are doing that. No smoking. Turn off your cell phones. Put them on vibrate. Number 4, each person will treat each other participant with courtesy and respect. 5, any voter who wishes to address the meeting will approach the microphone and would ask you not to touch the microphone. Please, don't touch it. Be recognized by myself and then state your name and address and spell your last name so the clerk can keep track of it. 6, general comments are limited to 5 minutes maximum. 7, speakers will remain at the microphone for answers to their questions. 8, all questions to the school board, budget committee, or other officials should be directed through me, the moderator. 9, each voter who desires to speak on an article will be given a chance to do so before any voter has a second opportunity to speak on the same issue. Makers of motions and seconds will state their name for the district clerk. Requirement a few years ago, we need to put your name into the record if you make the motion, and the same for the seconds, so you can't just say, I second it. We need your name. 11, only one amendment will be allowed on the floor at one time. No amendment to an amendment will be allowed. Such proposals will be dealt with as subsequent amendments after the first amendment has been voted upon. Amendments must be in writing and signed by the voter along with their printed name. 12, secret ballots must be requested by 5 voters in writing and signed by the voters, verified by the clerk, and made before the vote on an article. 13, challenges to any voice vote, we're not really going to have a voice vote, remember, we're going to raise our cards and count, require 7 or more voters immediately after it is announced, who may then request a written ballot. Municipal Budget Act 10% limit will be explained if necessary by our attorney or the school board chair. Reasonable discussion on both sides of a motion will be allowed before a call the question will be accepted. 2/3 vote is required for call of the question. Any amendment of financial amounts must be stated in dollars. Percentages must be converted to dollar amounts. 17, upon appeal of any ruling by the moderator, a majority vote will prevail. 18, Robert's Rules of Order used as a guide only. 19, at any time during the meeting, these rules may be altered by you by a majority vote. Without an objection from the floor, we will adopt these as the rules for the conduct of the meeting, subject to your change at any time. I hear no objections, so we are now ready to move on to the warrant. But before we go into the warrant, I believe there'll be a motion for non-voters, certain non-voters to speak. I believe.
Could I have my mic on, please? Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to have Dr. Cochran, Interim Superintendent of Schools, be allowed to speak, and also Attorney O'Shaughnessy, who is counsel for the district.
That's Kim. Kim made the motion. Kristen seconded it. All in favor of the motion, please raise your card. Thank you. Any object? And any abstain? Motion passes. Thank you. Now, moving on to the actual warrant. First session of annual meeting. You are hereby notified to meet at the Timberlane High School, 36 Greeno Road, Plastow, New Hampshire, on Thursday, the 4th day of February, 2021, at 7 p.m. The session will consist of an explanation, discussion, and debate of warrant articles number 2 through 10. Warrant articles may be amended subject to the following limitation. A, warrant articles whose wording is prescribed by law shall not be amended. B, warrant articles that are amended shall be placed on the official ballot for a final vote on the main motion as amended. And C, no warrant article shall be amended to eliminate the subject matter of the article. The second session of the annual meeting, you're voting on warrant articles 1 through 10 will be conducted by official ballot to be held in conjunction with town meeting voting to be held on Tuesday, the 9th day of March 2021 at the town election polls in Atkinson, Danville, Plastow, Sandow, New Hampshire. I will tell you that the town meeting voting is not taking place, I believe, on March 9th. In Danville, just the school voting. Danville has voted to postpone the actual vote for the town matters, but they are conducting the school matter. So these addresses will stay the same. Atkinson voting at the Atkinson Community Center, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Danville voting at the Danville Community Center, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Plastow voting will be conducted at the Plastow Public Works Garage from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sandown voting will be conducted at the Sandown Town Hall from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Article 1 is a non-amended article, just what offices are you going to elect and for what term. That is set forth in the warrant article, and as mentioned, that's non-amendable and non-debatable, so that will go on the ballot as written. Article 2, the operating budget. Shall the voters of the Timberlane Regional School District raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth on the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by vote of the first session for the purposes set forth therein, totaling $74,318,918. Should this article be defeated, the operating budget shall be $74,973,634, which is the same as last year with certain adjustments required by previous action of the Timberlane Regional School District or by law. Or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 14:13, Roman numeral X and Roman numeral XVI to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. Note, warrant Article 2, the operating budget does not include appropriations proposed under any other warrant articles. A majority vote is required. Recommended by the school board, 7-0-0. Recommended by the budget committee, 7-1-0. Do I have a motion to place this Article 2 on the ballot as written?
So
I'll
moved.
make that motion.
Motion by Kim, seconded by Kristen. Who would like to speak on this motion? Do we have anyone from the Budget Committee? Yes, sir.
Good evening, John Goldman, Sandown. I was paying attention a little bit, and arguably probably not as much as I should, but I noticed that there's a disparity between the payroll and benefits lines due to some staffing changes that the school board has indicated they were going to do. Can somebody just explain if that's has been removed from the budget or not?
I'll ask if anybody here feels they can answer that question. Since I don't have anybody from the Budget Committee,
I can
you
answer that
Kim?
question from the school board perspective. In December, the school board requested that the superintendent come back to the board with approximately $2 million in staffing removals or cuts for the upcoming budget year. The board did approve those particular reductions in staffing. At this time, we're still looking at what specifically those staffing positions are, though all staff have been notified if they are in that pool of staffing positions that we're looking to remove. So the school board did remove $2 million in staffing positions. The Budget Committee, we did inform the Budget Committee that there was a removal of about $2 million in staffing. They have not removed that from the Budget Committee's proposed budget, which is the budget that you're looking at. They did make reductions for certain unfilled positions based on them being potentially unfilled. They also made some reductions in utilities, but the proposed budget does not reflect the staffing as determined by the school board for the next year.
Mr. Harb, I don't know, I'll direct it to you. I don't know if Dr. Farah can answer it, but understanding that the Budget Committee crafts budget and the school board crafts policy, direction, and goal for the district, would it be an assumption that, would it be a fair assumption that if the school board has said these positions aren't going to be filled, then regardless of what the budget committee does, they won't be filled?
Can you answer that,
I-
Doctor?
I would say that is a correct assertion.
All right. So I was, one of the last deliberative sessions, I think it was in the PAC, I had some concerns several years ago. Previous superintendent blatantly said that we would remove positions, we would remove people from positions, and we'd carry those positions for a year or two in case we needed them, or in case we decided to repurpose them. And I had said back then, if the superintendent or the school board gives up 10 positions, hypothetically, there has to be a good relationship with the superintendent, so when he asks for 2 or 3 of those back the next year, that he doesn't have to claw and fight to get those back. My point being, it needs to be an ebb and flow between filled positions, maybe there's a few that we don't know what we're going to do with, but it's disrespectful to the taxpayers to, and I'm not saying you guys did this at all, but it's disrespectful to the taxpayers to know that these positions are not going to be filled and then include them in the budget. Ultimately, that becomes part of your surplus, which as a taxpayer, great, I've been taxed on whatever that number is. It never comes back to me, right? It goes into a reserve fund or a fund balance or whatever the case may be. I'd like to make a motion. Is this the appropriate time to make a motion on the budget?
You can make a motion on the amount of the budget. We'll need that in writing and signed by you.
Sure. I'd like to make a motion to reduce the budget by $567,000 from the current proposed budget. That reflects the reduction in staffing made by the school board that was not included in the budget committee's proposed budget. And as such, the proposed budget reflects a higher salary and benefits line than the proposed staffing for the district in 21-22.
And what is your new number?
Sorry about that. So the new number should be $73,751,918.
73,751,915. Do we have a second on that motion, and we need your name? Tom? Motion signed by Mr. Goldman is to reduce the operating budget to $73,751,918. Any discussion on this motion to amend? I don't see any discussion, so
What's the
all,
amount, Mr. Moderator, please?
did you raise your hand, ma'am?
What's that, Moderator?
The number is 73,751,918.
918.
Yes, sir.
Sandown, Chris, True, True. I'd just like to say that I think it was a shame to present to the voters of our district, once again, no real choice. It's a take it or leave it budget as presented. Speaking to this amendment, it brings the budget down to a little bit, and I'll take a little bit rather than tell the people, you can either vote for what we want or you can vote for $500,000 more. I certainly, it's a common sense reduction. It's a reduction in personnel that was never going to be filled anyway, and I certainly support the amendment. Thank you.
Anyone else to speak on the amendment? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Sarah Scanlon from Danville. I wasn't planning to speak tonight, but I feel that the unsaid part of this is the reduction in personnel is the cut of the foreign language in elementary schools program. I've spoken to it at school board meeting, budget committee meeting. I feel like it's, it hasn't been, excuse me, I'm nervous. It hasn't been fully explored. I don't feel there was, it was discussed that there might have been a correlation between when the FLES program came in and a change in the math and the English scores. There's not, unless nothing else changes, I don't see that you can make that correlation. There was a change in the actual testing that was used, so that could change the math and English scores. I don't want to spend tons of money, but I feel that this program is crucial and forward-thinking program for the kids in Timberlane, and I feel like it's a shame that it's going to be cut, because that's what the money that is in this amendment is going to go to, removing the FLES program. So thank you to our FLES program so far. My daughter's benefited from it. I wish there was others that could still benefit from it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak on the motion to amend? The motion is to amend down to $73,751,918. Seeing nobody at the mic and nobody raising their card. All in favor of the motion to amend, please raise your cards. Keep them up, because this is an important article, so I think we're going to call for a count. Keep them up, please. Okay, you can put them down. All opposed, please raise your cards. And keep them up so we can count. You may put them down. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. I want to thank everybody for wearing their masks. I'm told there's no one in the maskless room, so thank you all. The count is those in favor, 26. Those opposed, 34. Motion fails. Thank you for making it. Is there anyone else to propose any further discussion on the main motion? Just the main motion? Hearing none and nobody approaching for a motion, the main motion as written, Article 2, will appear on the ballot as written. Thank you. Moving on. Article 3, a one-year collective bargaining agreement, Timberlane Administrative Assistance and Maintenance Union. Shall the voters of the Timberlane Regional School District approve the cost items included in the collective bargaining agreement reached between the Timberlane Administrative Assistance and Maintenance Union and the Timberlane Regional School Board, which calls for the following increases in salaries and benefits of the current staffing levels over the amount paid in the prior fiscal year. Fiscal year 2021 to 22, estimated increase, $20,836. And further, to raise and appropriate the sum of $20,836 for the 2021-2022 fiscal year, such sum representing the additional cost attributed to the increase in salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over those that would be paid at the current staffing levels. Majority vote required, recommended by the school committee, 7-0-0, recommended by the budget committee, 8-0-0, we have a motion to place this on the ballot as written?
I'll make that motion.
Made by Dr. Farah. Do I have a second? Seconded by Kristen Savage. I believe there's a motion that would like to be made regarding Article 3, and I'll ask Kim Farah to present that motion.
I would like to make a motion to increase the estimated increase for the one-year collective bargaining agreement with the Timberlane Administrative Assistance and Maintenance Unit by $25,740 to cover anticipated insurance cost increases. This will bring the total to $46,576, and to further amend the sum for the fiscal year 21-22 to $46,576 to reflect that said increase.
Do we have a second on that motion? Seconded by Kristen Savage. Before we have a discussion on this motion, I am going to call on our school district attorney, Jim O'Shaughnessy. He will discuss with us and advise us regarding changing cost items in articles, which normally are not amendable, but he's going to explain this particular motion. And so you will be aware there'll be other motions made on the other two collective bargaining articles. So he's only going to speak to us once because they apply to all three articles. Attorney O'Shaughnessy.
Thank you. The board negotiated three contracts this year, and at the time they estimated the cost items that they placed on the warrant. There was a slight difference in the health insurance estimate. So the board recalculated that health insurance estimate and modified the cost items, and that happened shortly before the public hearing. Not enough time to disclose that at the public hearing, and the best method of properly putting the cost items before the voters on the ballot is to have the legislative body amend them today. This is different than your typical action where we don't allow the legislative body to amend cost items at the deliberative session, and that's because by law, the role of the legislative body is to vote on the cost items that are presented to it by the school board. This is a different scenario here where the school board is saying the cost item estimate is actually slightly different than what is on the draft warrant that was presented today for the deliberative session. So I've advised the board and I advised the meeting that in order to comply with the contractual negotiations process, you need to amend the cost items so that they are a proper and accurate reflection of the negotiated agreement between the board and the unions.
And we've been advised that because this is not really amending, it's correcting an error, that Attorney O'Shaughnessy says this would comply with, what is it, Chapter RSA 179, I think, 79A, Jim?
It's really RSA 273A:3 is the part of the statute that requires the board to present an estimate of cost items to the legislative body for approval.
So we have a motion, we have a second, we have a discussion on the motion. Yes, sir, in front of me.
Yes, Mr. O'Shaughnessy, one of the parts of your statement that you said is a recalculation. To me, I'm seeing these numbers, and if you're talking about a recalculation from the cost basis of zero, that's not a recalculation to me. That's a gross misunderstanding of having these proper numbers presented at the time of the negotiation. I mean, I'm looking at this and I'm seeing this for the first time and actually hearing about these increases for the first time. And these are actually, for two of them, are considerably more than what the negotiated numbers were for the COLA increases for these three subsequent articles that are going to be coming before us tonight. How does that actually happen? Is my question.
I'm not sure I was asked a legal question, so I'm going to defer to the school board chair to answer that.
Well, okay. Let me rephrase it. Were you given any medical for these collective bargaining units? Were you giving stuff by our administration to reflect that, so that you could properly present it to the collective bargaining unit?
I'm advising the legislative body at the deliberative session. I'm not sure, Sean, I want to answer your question, but I don't quite know what you're asking. I know that,
My question is, I think we have a very big failure to communicate around here. I mean, how does this jumped on up from $20,836 before I walked in here tonight to know that it's gone up to $46,575 for this one. There was no reflection of the insurance cost in this collective bargaining agreement, and it's all coming in now for something that should have been negotiated all along the way in good faith, which this board has always done. And to have these increases come in here at the last minute is just unacceptable, period. And especially of this magnitude. I mean, we're not talking just a couple of percent adjustment here. I mean, we're talking from $0 to something that's very large. And in fact, it circumvents even what the regular COLA was.
Dr. Farrar, are you able to answer his question?
The increase in insurance is due to increasing the percentage of contribution that the district makes to employees. There's been quite a bit of disparity over the course of many years. So what happened is, as we approached the time that we were looking to try to make the warrant so that we would not have these bargaining units go another year without an increase, we did not have the anticipated insurance cost increase built into this warrant article. And as such, and this was discussed at our last school board meeting, this should not be new to board members, this was discussed at the last meeting. As Attorney Shaughnessy said, we did not have time to change it because the public hearing had already been posted, and should we have changed it, we would have had to have had another public hearing. So I relied on council to advise us, and the advice that we've taken was to present this at the deliberative session versus having the cost of another public hearing for these three items. And you're correct, two of them are higher than anticipated and one bargaining unit has decreased.
Dr. Farrar, let me ask you a question that I know was discussed with Attorney O'Shaughnessy. You have a collective bargaining agreement with these people. The number that was originally put forward, does that comply with the collective bargaining agreement calculations, or is it different? Which is why you made the motion to change the number so it was reflective of the actual agreement.
Correct. This number would be reflective of what the actual written agreement states, which has been voted on by both the board and the CBAs in question.
So perhaps I could try to answer the question of the gentleman. As I understand it, the number on the written article is not reflective of the contract, and if the voters pass this article, it will not really be of an effect at all because it's not the number in the collective bargaining agreement calculation. So if this was just Dr. Farrar wanting to increase the line item, I believe it would be out of order, or decrease it. It's just, I was told it just reflects what the actual contract is.
yeah, I'd like to add, sorry, sir. I'd like to add just a point of clarity. The board has already negotiated in good faith with the three bargaining units. They have entered into a tentative agreement. The problem is that the costs that were estimated when they were put on the warrant were not entirely accurate at the time. So those cost items need to be modified so that the voters are actually voting on the cost items that the parties negotiated. To me, it's a pretty straightforward issue, but I understand it's not common, so it might confuse people, but it's actually necessary in order for the district to carry out its duty to bargain in good faith with its bargaining units, and that's why it's being proposed.
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Harp, thank you. John Goldman, Sandown. I appreciate what you just said, Mr. O'Shaughnessy. It was part of my question. But what I'm presuming here is a contract was negotiated in good faith with a collective bargaining unit. And through somebody's fault, I'm guessing probably on the school side of the house, it was negotiated in bad faith. Because everybody TA'd an agreement, and all of a sudden it's 50-something thousand dollars, not 20 and change. I've negotiated and I've been on the negotiating team for several municipal contracts. And if this happened in my town, me and one of the selectmen just negotiated a PD contract for our police officers. The number came in at whatever it came in at. If we went to deliberative session and doubled that number, A, I question if that's actually negotiated in good faith, quite honestly. And B, we can't be fired as selectmen, but I can assure you somebody would probably not have a job the next day. That is, to echo Mr. O'Neill, a disgusting miscalculation and misnegotiation, and I don't understand how that's in good faith. And I'm not yelling at you, I'm kind of just, I don't understand it. And so I guess my two questions, and then I'll sit down and maybe Mr. Shaughnessy can answer it. Number one, is that truly good faith collective bargaining when everybody has TA'd a contract and then the price doubles? And then my second question is probably for Mr. O'Shaughnessy as well. If the body denies or does not vote for this amendment and it stays at $20,836, regardless of the answer to my first question, if the contract passes at the polls, do they still get what's owed to them, right? And does it just mean that the school board has to find whatever the amount of the amendment is in the current budget? And my statement to that will be, if that's the case, I'm okay with that. Because at the end of the day, that's going to come out of that 567 that just didn't get taken out. So if I have a way to force that 567, we know that the school board is not filling those positions. So everybody that voted for that is in essence voted to tax themselves on over $500,000 for no reason. So those are my two questions. I can repeat them if you need me to.
I think I can answer. Can I answer?
Yes, Jim. you can
So the first answer is the parties did negotiate in good faith. I didn't negotiate these contracts, but I'm familiar with the process. And effectively what happened is the board agreed to pay a group of employees 85% of their health insurance, assuming that that was what most or all of those employees were currently receiving. Subsequently found out that some of those employees the district was contributing far less than that, say 60% of their health insurance. So as a result, the original estimate increased because the district's obligation to those employees increased. So what the board agreed to was to pay 85% of health insurance, and it's on the board that the estimate was incorrect and that the cost item on the warrant article is incorrect, and that's why we're trying to amend it here. With respect to the second part of the question, it would be very easy for the board to just have ignored this calculation error, approve the cost items and move on, and unbeknownst to you, the estimate was actually inaccurate and nobody would have been the wiser. But what we're trying to do here is be transparent and say, the cost item, there was an error. It's always difficult to admit an error, and we need to correct it so we're being accurate. My concern from a legal perspective is there's a risk that even if it passes, it jeopardizes the contract, because under law you're required to Samburnize all the cost items, and if we know the cost item estimate is low and that's what gets voted in, has it been properly Samburnized? So the real concern is the contracts are not valid, and we have to go back to the table and renegotiate, and we don't want to do that with these employees. We want these contracts to pass.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that. My last statement on this will be, whomever that one person is that made a $25,000 mistake, maybe they can pay for it.
Can I answer that?
I'll let Dr. Farrar. Is there anybody else to speak new on this? Dr. Farrar, you want to answer his question or his statement?
Mr. Goldman, and you can take this statement for what it's worth and just give it some thought. The board is elected volunteers. The board employs counsel to advise them. That's my statement.
Understood. Thank you. And thank you to the board for the work you do.
So I would like the voters to just understand, if we pass this amendment with a, as Attorney O'Shaughnessy says, sambernizing, in other words, put the correct number out to the voters, they have the option to reject the contract, and that would bring us to Article 4 to call for a special meeting, because they're going to have to reestablish the contract in new amounts. But as Attorney O'Shaughnessy said, they're trying to just give you the real number. So we have a motion on the floor. I don't see anybody at the mic. All in favor of the motion to amend to $46,570, please raise your cards and keep them up. We're going to make our assistant moderators work tonight, so they have to learn to count. You may put your cards down. All opposed, please raise your cards. We'll give you a count, but it looks like the yeas have it. The count is 44 for, 10 against. The motion passes. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to make a motion to restrict reconsideration of Article 2, the operating budget.
Can you wait till we finish this?
Second.
Can you wait till we finish this article? I don't want to take a motion in the middle of an article that we haven't finished. As soon as we're done, then
As
you
soon as
can
we're
make
done?
that.
Okay, thank you.
So the motion to amend passes, and as was mentioned, that was the only motion that we can allow on this. So as amended, Article 3 will appear on the ballot as written, as amended here to read $46,576, Dr. Farrell?
Yes, 46,576.
46,576, thank you. Now I have a motion to restrict reconsideration of Article 2. Do I have a second?
Sarah, would you do 2 and 3?
I saw a couple
No,
of seconds
she meant
up
Article
there.
2.
Just want to make sure.
Just 2?
Article 2, yep.
Okay. Second.
I wish I could see that far and read your name tags. Can the maker of the second give the name?
Oh.
Because she has to write it down. Thank you. All in favor, raise your cards to restrict. We're only talking about restriction?
Is there no discussion on restriction, sir?
No.
What do you mean, no?
You're for it or you're against it?
Without discussion.
I'll ask Attorney Shaughnessy. I don't believe it's, yeah, it's not a debatable motion. We either restrict or we don't restrict.
Okay, so I just, so I understand, whatever changes come, however much more money is added to any articles throughout the night, we can't go back and look at that budget after this
If
vote.
restriction passes, correct.
Okay.
So if you're in favor of restriction, please raise your cards and keep them up. This is Article 2, the budget. Okay, thank you. You can put them down. All opposed to restriction of Article 2, please raise your card. Thank you. The count is 39 for, 12 against. Motion to restrict reconsideration of Article 2 passes. Moving on to Article 4, authorization for a special meeting on cost items. Shall the voters of the Timberlane Regional School District, if Article 3 is defeated, authorize the Timberlane Regional School Board to call one special meeting at its option to address Article 3 cost items only. Majority vote required, recommended by the school board 7-0-0. Do I have a motion to place Article 4 on the ballot as written?
I'll make that motion.
Made by Dr. Farrar. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Kristen Savage. I believe this is a non-amendable, non-debatable article. It's language prescribed by law to enable the school board to call a special meeting should Article 3 be defeated. So I'm going to move on to the next article. This will appear on the ballot as written. Article 5, one-year collective bargaining agreement, Timberlane Custodians Union. Shall the voters of the Timberlane Regional School District approve the cost items included in the collective bargaining agreement reached between the Timberlane Custodians Union and the Timberlane Regional School Board, which calls for the following increases in salaries and benefits at the current staffing levels over the amount paid in the prior year, fiscal year 2021-22, estimated increase $13,998. And further to raise and appropriate the sum of $13,998 for the 2021-22 fiscal year. Such sum representing the additional cost attributed to the increase in salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over those which would be paid at the current staffing levels. Majority vote required, recommended by the school board 7-0-0, recommended by the budget committee 8-0-0. Do I have a motion to place this on the ballot as written?
I'll make that motion.
Made by Dr. Farrar. I have a second by Kristen Savage. I believe I have a motion on this again by Dr. Farrar. You have a motion?
I'm going to motion to decrease the estimated increase for the one-year collective bargaining agreement with the Timberlane Custodians Union by $6,354 to reflect anticipated insurance decreases, thus bringing the total estimated cost to $7,644, and to further amend the sum for the 21-22 fiscal year to $7,644 to reflect said decrease.
Thank you. So on this Article 5, it's a motion to decrease from $13,998 to $7,644. Any discussion on the
point of order.
motion?
I'll second that vote.
Oh,
Second.
thank you. We have a second by Kristen Savage. Any discussion on the motion to decrease? And no one approaching the mic.
Could I just...
Would you like to
The
talk?
reason for this decrease is we have reduced the number of insurance plans that will be offered moving forward. Is that correct, Ms. Watkins, on the insurance plans? Maria?
Did you hear the question? She says
Is
they
it-
decrease the number because you have decreased.
We've decreased the number of insurance plans for these collective bargaining units, and that's why we're seeing a decrease in this particular bargaining unit. And these are estimates because it's based on who's taking which plan and you know, if they're a family or single. So these are our best estimates based on current personnel.
So that explains why the decrease or suggested motion to decrease. Any discussion on the motion to decrease? All in favor, please raise your cards. And you can put them down. All opposed? Motion passes. So as we mentioned in Article 3, this is a collective bargaining agreement. The motion could be made because of correcting errors in estimates. So this Article 5, as amended, will appear on the ballot as amended. So now I'll read Article 6, which is a non-amendable motion article. Article 6, authorization for special meeting on cost items. Shall the voters of the Timberlane Regional School District, if Article 5 is defeated, authorize the Timberlane Regional School Board to call one special meeting at its option to address Article 5 cost items only. Majority vote required, recommended by the school board 7-0-0. Do I have a motion to place this on the ballot as written?
I'll make that motion.
Made by Dr. Farrar and seconded by Kristen Savage. Again, this is a non-amendable motion. It is for purposes set by law, the language, so Article 6 will appear on the ballot as written. Article 7, one-year collective bargaining agreement, the Timberlane Food Service Workers Union. Shall the voters of the Timberlane Regional School District approve the cost items included in the collective bargaining agreement reached between the Timberlane Food Service Workers Union and the Timberlane Regional School Board, which call for the following increases in salaries and benefits at the current staffing levels over the amount paid in the prior fiscal year. Fiscal year 2021 to 22 estimated increase, $4,833. And further, to raise and appropriate the sum of $4,833 for the 2021-22 fiscal year, such sum representing the additional cost attributed to the increase in salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over those that would be paid at the current staffing levels. Majority vote required, recommended by the school board, 700, recommended by the budget committee, 800. Do I have a motion to place Article 7 on the ballot as written? Made by Kristen Savage. Do I have a second? Seconded by Dr. Farah. They changed their roles on me.
Sorry.
Thank you. So, but I believe we have one more motion to amend Article 7.
Right.
Dr. Farah?
I would like to make a motion to increase the estimated increase for the one-year collective bargaining agreement with the Timberlane Food Service Workers Union by $27,789 to cover anticipated insurance increases, thus bringing the total estimated cost to $33,623, and to further amend the sum for the 21-22 fiscal year to $33,623 to reflect said increase.
And I have a second by Kristen Savage for the motion to amend. We've heard the arguments and the discussion before. The amount is to give the voters an accurate amount. Any discussion on this motion? Yes, sir. Can you reach the phone and the microphone and tell us your name and town?
Nolan Pelletier, point of order. I just didn't get the number.
Oh, $33,623 is the new number. 33,623.
And is this again with health insurance? Is this what it was a miscalculation in health insurance raises?
Correct.
Correct? That's over, what's that percentage? 1, 2,
Like 400+%.
400? Yeah, that's pretty big.
Not for us.
Thank you.
Any more discussion on the motion to amend? The motion is to change the number from 4833 to 33,623. All in favor, please raise your cards. Thank you. All opposed? I'm going to take it that the ayes have it. So the motion to amend is approved, and that was only to correct an incorrect number, not to actually make a change from what was agreed on. So the Article 7, as amended, will appear on the ballot. Article 8, again, this is another state language. Article 8, authorization for special meeting on cost items. Shall the voters of the Timberlane Regional School District, if Article 7 is defeated, authorize the Timberlane Regional School Board to call one special meeting at its option to address Article 7 cost items only. Majority vote required, recommended by the school board, 700. Do I have a motion to place this on the ballot as written? Made by Kristen Savage. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dr. Farah. As I said, this is a non-amendable motion, language set by law. So Article 8 will appear on the ballot as written. Article 9, Capital Reserve Fund by surplus. Shall the voters of the Timberlane Regional School District raise and appropriate up to $250,000 to be placed in the school building construction, reconstruction, capital improvement, and land purchase capital reserve fund established in 1996, with such amount to be transferred from those funds in the June 30, 2021 unassigned fund balance available for transfer on July 1 of this year, which were apportioned as capital expenses in 2020-2021 in accordance with Article 6 of the Timberlane Regional School District Articles of Agreement. No amount to be raised by additional taxation. Majority vote required, recommended by the school board, 700, recommended by the budget committee, 800. Do I have a motion to place Article 9 on the ballot as written, made by Kristen Savage? Do I have a
Second.
second? Seconded by Dr. Farah. Would someone like to speak on Article 9? Dr. Farrell?
I'll speak to Article 9. The $250,000 comes out of the unassigned fund balance. It would only be for capital expense line. For the years that I've been on the board, we have been spending whatever money that we have on capital to improve the facilities of the district. So it is rare that we will have any money, or if we do, it will be very little. I think it was around $30,000 last year. We do, any money that we have that is left from these capital goes into the capital reserve fund that is now held by the trustee of trust funds in Plastow. That was changed from Danville. There's approximately $1 million in that fund now. We did remove about $500,000 last year for repair of the Performing Arts Center, and that was all completed. I don't know if anybody noticed, but that has been fixed. So we have about $1 million. This will only go in from the operating budget should it not be used, but the board and the superintendent have been trying to ensure that any money raised for capital is used for improvement of facilities. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more discussion on this article? Yes, sir. Approach the mic, please.
I promise John Goldman, stand down, and I promise every single year that I'm not going to talk, and here I am. So when I look at all of this, right, we have some decent money mistakes with the article, with the collective bargaining agreements. We know we have $567,000 that the school board has basically pledged that it's going to drop to the bottom line. So I'd like to make an amendment to the warrant article, to this Article 9. I would make an amendment that it reads, shall the voters of the Timberlane Regional School District raise and appropriate up to $250,000 to be refunded to the towns with such amount to be transferred, and then the rest goes on from the rest of the warrant article. So in essence, I'm striking the placed in the school building construction, reconstruction, capital improvement, and land purchase capital reserve fund established in 1996 is the part that I would strike.
Our attorney has advised me what I thought, that would be an out-of-order motion, and I can't take it.
Can I ask why it would be out of order?
I'd ask Attorney O'Shaughnessy.
Yeah, New Hampshire law is actually quite broad in what it does allow you to do in terms of amendments, but there are a couple of restrictions and limitations. One, you can't change the subject matter of a warrant article, which you're not doing here. The other is you can't render a warrant article a nullity by basically doing away with the voters' opportunity to vote on the warrant article. The courts have interpreted that type of action as effectively removing the subject matter, and you can't appropriate money that then gets returned to the taxpayers. That's not a mechanism that works here. So you could amend the dollar amount and other things, but you can't, unfortunately, do what you proposed.
Okay, I would argue that I'm not amending the intent, just the direction of where the money would go, but you're the lawyer, not me, so I'm good with that. Thank you.
Any further discussion on Article 9? Seeing none, Article 9 will appear on the ballot as written. Before I go on to Article 10, let me remind you that there will be special meetings of the school board and the budget committee by video conference after this evening in order to finalize article recommendations that you saw on the printed warrant in case they wish to change their recommendations. And you are reminded again, because I know you'll all leave when this is over, to go March 9th and please vote in your respective towns, at least for the school in Danville and in your town votes on all the other towns. Article 10, final article, general acceptance of reports. Shall the voters of the Timberlane Regional School District accept reports of agents, auditors, and committees as written in the 2020 annual report? Majority vote required, recommended by the school board, 7-0-0. Motion to place this on the warrant as written. Kristen Savage, do I have a second? Dr. Farrell. Any discussion? This is just a housekeeping to put these and accept these reports. I don't hear any objection. Nobody, we're coming to the mic. So Article 10 will appear on the ballot as written. I thank you all for your attention tonight and for being present in these days. Thank you for wearing your masks. I want to thank the school and all of the people that helped set this up, even those that may not be here tonight. I shout out to them and thank them for all the work they did, and thank you all for being here. I declare this meeting adjourned.